Yeah, so this episode, I want to talk a little bit about my thoughts on the London Bridge terror attack. I've got a few images here first for you guys. This is the van, a Renault transport van that was used. Here you have some of the British transport police just on the side probably of the London Bridge. There's these big pillars at the end of it. Apparently, members of the British Transport Police actually shot dead the three attackers. The attackers drove over the bridge, probably mounted the sidewalk, killed various people by running over them, then crashed into the south side, into a building on the south side of the bridge, and jumped out and started attacking people with knives. Apparently, fairly long machete type knives. They were wearing fake suicide vests, probably because they couldn't get real ones, and probably because that stops people from tackling them. I certainly wouldn't jump on someone with a suicide vest. Um, they were shot dead within 8 minutes by the British police, which usually I'd find a little bit suspicious, but considering there'd just been the Manchester attack and this is really the heart of London, and there's probably on the south on that in that area there's several tube stations. I suspect they were just in the vicinity. This is the van again. It'd be interesting to find out what that red logo on the door is. So if anyone knows anything more about that, post in the comments below. Um, I've got a quick map that I'm going to show you guys as well of the location here. So that'll come up in a second. I used the Russian map to trigger all the snowflakes. Um, as you can see, I've circled London Bridge there and the direction in which the van drove over the bridge, mowing down people, and then the spot where it actually crashed and where they jumped out. It's not really a crash. I guess they just kind of pulled over onto the sidewalk and then, jumped out and started attacking people in the pubs and bars around there. So, my thoughts on this attack. Six dead, at least six dead, at least 30 injured. From what I can tell, the attackers were Arabs. I've seen some pictures where with some dead guys on the floor, lots of blood around them. They had sort of these weird canisters on them, and yeah, I mean, look Arab to me. Apparently, they were shouting, "This is for Allah." So, the same old story, really. Now, a lot of hashtag activism has started again. We're going to have all our Facebooks with the British flag. I mean, the bridge here in my town was not lit up in British colors last night, but it probably will be tonight for the umpteenth time. Yeah, it's becoming routine, really. And I think there's really a campaign of terror against Europe that's being instigated at the moment, especially Britain, which is quite interesting. I mean, I think the reason that all these guys are attacking now within, several weeks, months of each other is they've been given a signal by someone, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's the CIA, whether it's some elitist bankers, who knows who's behind this shit. But I mean, I think it's obvious to all of us that these guys are just the foot soldiers. They're, brainwashed idiots, basically. Good riddance to them. But let's be clear here. I mean, what is the big motivating factor here? The big motivating factor is that we are at war and have been at war, the Brits, the Americans, the entire West, NATO, for about 30 years now, I'd say, or maybe even longer. I mean, really, as soon as the Soviet Union collapsed, the West just went on a rampage in the Middle East. I mean, whether it's middle Iraq in 1991, whether it's the no-fly zone of Iraq for 10 years essentially, whether it's Iraq War II, whether it's Somalia, whether it's Afghanistan, Syria, sanctions on Yemen, sanctions on Iran. I mean, weapons shipments to Yemen, weapon shipments to Saudi Arabia. Libya, Somalia, what else is happening? I mean, the list is just never ending now. So these people do have valid anger, valid revenge, desire for revenge. And it seems to me that the easiest way to really get out of this situation, a situation where you can't even go out on a Saturday night in London anymore without being afraid of some terrorist attack, where you can't go to a concert anymore without, little kids being blown up. The way to get out of the situation is to withdraw all troops from the Middle East immediately. Okay, this bullshit about we've got to fight them over there so that we don't have to fight them here. Well, how's that working out? You tell me, how's that working out? Let's have our young boys die over there so that we can have some civilians and little kids die here as well, right? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And the government doesn't care. They instigated the wars. They want the wars. They don't care about protecting us. They wouldn't start wars if they wanted to protect us. How many terrorist attacks happen in Switzerland? How many terrorist attacks happen in Brazil? How many terrorist attacks happen in Japan? Where the Islamic terrorists blowing up Argentinians? Where the Islamic terrorists blowing up Koreans? It doesn't happen, does it? Because those nations are not at war in the Middle East. So that's number one. Number two, if you're going to go to war, as nations do and have throughout all of history, I mean, let's say there's some reason we have to go to war. Okay, well then, how about not importing millions of the enemy nations? I mean, like, look at World War II. You had war, all-out war pretty much against Japan. Now, what did the United States do? They put all the Japanese Americans into internment camps. I mean, it's not nice, but that's what a government does when they are concerned about an insurgency, about subversive activities of the enemy ethnicity, the enemy nation. Now, I'm not advocating for putting all Arabs that live in Europe and the West into internment camps, but one thing you could do is expel anyone with radicalist ideas and not import any more. Like, why are we importing millions and millions of people from the nations we're bombing? It doesn't strike anyone as weird at all. Like, these people might not be angry at all the, family members that have died. They might not harbor some resentment. No, never, right? I mean, it's just absurd. But does this ever come up on TV? No, doesn't. It's all this, oh, it's not real Islam. No, this is all Islamic people denounce these attacks. Bullshit! A very large percentage of Islamic people support these attacks, between 30 and 60%, because they know their nations are under war. They have probably distant relatives that have been killed. So, let's not listen to the nonsense on TV. Let's think about this rationally and clearly. And if we do, we know it's solvable. Very easy to solve. As I said, there's plenty of nations on Earth that don't have Islamic terrorism. And generally, what defines these nations is that they are not at war with any Arab country, and they don't have mass immigration from Arab countries. Simple as that.